Welcome to the COMC Community Spotlight Show here on Lake TV, presented by the amazing folks at Central Ozarks Medical Center, where your health is their mission. And we just so happen to have one of the great doctors from COMC with us here this week. It's Dr. Haynie. Thank you, sir, for coming by. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I keep hearing amazing things about this Dr. Haynie at COMC. So you're apparently making your mark.
I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I've got a great team, and just so much is happening. I think they kind of set the tone before I got here.
Wow.
So she's been making a lot of strides recently, so it was a good train to jump on.
There you go. So have you always wanted to be a doctor, or was there one of those magic moments where something hit you and it's like, I want to be a doctor?
I think I gravitated towards it. I think I've always enjoyed, just had a deep interest in people. Had an opportunity when I was younger, really sought out travel, not necessarily in a vacation style, but more to get to know people, cultures. Was just fascinated, was able to do some traveling in South America and around Europe and Turkey, spent some time in China and Tibet, and just fascinated by people, the way they live, the way they practice. And that, I think, along with, I like solving problems. So I think I also have a deep interest in solving problems. So it was a natural path at some point.
Right.
I could kind of intertwine the interest in people with solving problems and empathy. So.
And I always get a kick out of, people say they call it a medical practice because you do have to figure out problems. You have to solve problems and figure things out.
It's true.
You don't just always have a remedy for, it's just this simple. You really have to figure things through.
It is true. And there are jokes out there somewhere about not wanting your doctor to be constantly practicing.
Right, yeah. At some point, let's get it right.
Right. But it is. It's constantly an evolution. There's just so much to learn, to stay on top of, and it's a moving target, right? I mean, people are different. The dynamics are different. The setting that you practice in is different, and every individual that walks in the door is different. So it is a moving target, and definitely something you have to practice at.
And medicines work differently with different people too, which is probably another wild card thrown in there. Yeah. So I think you're doing family medicine now, right?
That's
Why
correct.
Family medicine?
Well, I actually started out in pediatrics. So I know it sounds cliche, but I think kids are the future.
Yeah,
I think teaching them solid habits, not only around health, but around manners, and just growing up in a nurturing environment is important. So after medical school, I initially did pediatrics in Cincinnati. Towards the end of my first year of training, Hurricane Katrina ravaged the Gulf Coast, and I'd done some previous work with disaster relief. Had worked up at 9/11 after the towers were attacked, and had an opportunity to go down to the Gulf Coast and assist the folks that live there. And at that point, it wasn't really urgent care or pediatrics that came up big. It was those long-term relationships, understanding, I guess, what we call the social determinants of health, people's socioeconomic status, their lifestyle choices, who they lived with, where they lived, their access to facilities, their transportation issues, and it was just extremely gratifying to build those relationships with people, and family medicine became a natural progression from there.
Right, and you do evolve as a doctor over the years, right? I mean, you do the emergency room stuff, and this, that, and the next thing. But at some point, that all transitions into something else.
And I think we grow as people. Right. I took time off from practicing for 5 or 6 years to focus on my family. Had little kids that didn't want to miss the opportunity to raise them. So my wife and I have a farm up south of Kansas City. Spent a number of years focused on raising my kids and taking a break, taking a step back, focusing on the things that make life worth it. And I think coming back into practice has given me a new outlook on those things, on the importance of the journey, and on the importance of the individual. It's easy for us to get caught up in the metrics, right? The outcomes, the patient volume, the numbers,
right?
And I think taking some time off really allowed me to appreciate not just what is it we need to accomplish today for this individual, but what are their goals? Where can I meet them to accomplish their goals? And I think that's definitely a shift in my practice style from when I was younger.
Yeah, and great for the family too. I'm sure those were special years with the family on the farm and everything. One of the things that just stuck out to me when I was reading your bio was that you spent time with a ski patrol in Oregon.
Oh, gracious.
I mean, that sounds pretty cool, right?
Well, it was a hobby. I'd always liked hiking, being in the outdoors. And when I was in medical school in Pittsburgh, there was an explorers club that I got to attend weekly. We did snow camping and orienteering and got to get into some ice climbing. And then when I moved out to Oregon to do family medicine residency, was able to start skiing and started doing backcountry skiing, and found it was a lot wiser to predict avalanches than to get caught up in them. So took a lot of courses in avalanche prediction and rescue, and it led to some opportunities to work with a couple of different ski patrols on the mountains out there and apply my medicine with my interest in being outdoors.
In the cold and snow and ice.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So when you say avalanche rescue, you're like digging people out of the snow and stuff?
Well, hopefully not. I've never had to do that. We'd practice with backpacks, but it kind of two components. The first is to predict where they're going to happen, so you don't put yourself in that circumstance. But then, unfortunately, when it does happen, being methodical, using a team approach, communicating well, and having the techniques and the skills to get people out pretty quickly comes up big.
You know what else stuck out to me on his bio was mountain climbing. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's Dr. Holland Haynie on the COMC Community Spotlight Show. Central Ozarks Medical Center, voted Missouri's best and best at the lake, is recruiting team members due to growth. Amazing employment opportunities for both medical and non-medical positions with competitive salaries and outstanding perks. For more information, go to the Careers tab at centralozarks.org. COMC for the best medical, dental, and behavioral health care. Join a leader. Join our team. COMC, where your health is our mission. Welcome back to the COMC Community Spotlight Show. We're talking with COMC Dr. Holland Haynie. We were just talking about you were in avalanche rescue and backcountry skiing. I mean, it's kind of like Superman here. And then mountain climbing too. You've also climbed mountains?
It was a part of it. It was a hobby when I lived in Oregon. There are a lot of volcanoes, and was able to take some trips down to Ecuador and do some hiking. And it's a young man's game, though.
Yeah, so I would think so.
I think once you have a family and your priorities shift, right? All of a sudden, not putting yourself in harm's way becomes a bigger priority.
Did you enjoy that, climbing mountains and stuff?
I'm very goal-oriented. So I enjoyed the training aspect. A lot of planning went into it. It's not simply run out there and run up it, right? You want to understand the conditions. You want to understand your teammates. There's a lot of preparation and training, and I think that's a parallel to life in a lot of ways. So
There's a lot of life and death situations there too, though, right? Hanging off a mountain and stuff.
Well, there can be, but that's the goal of the preparation and the planning, I think, is to
not get in that
yes, sir,
point.
Not to be up there wishing you were down here.
Wow.
Right.
Mountain climber. Okay, so COMC itself, such a big part of the community and the community's health.
Absolutely.
Especially in recent years. Since Kelly Miller took over as the CEO, it's just grown so much. But it is a big part of the local health. Where do you like to play? What's your role in that?
Sure. No, my background's family medicine, so that at the end of the day, family medicine is really about the whole spectrum of life, from pediatrics to geriatrics. I think at the end of the day, prevention is a big piece of what I do, attempting to do appropriate screenings based on age, gender, socioeconomics, lifestyle choices, to identify things early and treat and manage them. But urgent care issues come up. People have things that aren't predictable. Yeah. And I think that's, as you mentioned, just the role COMC is playing in the community. One of the reasons that I was drawn here is just the broad spectrum of services we offer under one roof. At any of our given clinics, we have myself, other providers that do primary care. We have pediatricians, we have obstetricians, women's health, behavioral health, pharmacists. We have patient care coordinators that help folks navigate the gauntlet of prior authorizations and insurance. And oftentimes folks come in and multiple family members will see myself or other providers at the same day, or will see me and then we'll see another provider shortly after they see me. And I think that is just an ideal scenario. So a lot of my role comes into helping folks navigate that, helping them understand what services we offer, what direction, perhaps based on things that the patient and I are collaborating on, which direction to send them. So a lot of what I do is navigation.
Yeah, and you mentioned preventative care. Why is that important, and how do you approach that?
Well, I think the big piece of prevention is shifting the conversation from being proactive instead of reactive.
Okay.
So attempting to...
Instead of just waiting for something to happen, is like think ahead.
Correct, yes, sir. So identifying the appropriate screenings for individuals based on their age, based on things that are going on in their life, and attempting to work within the realm of what it is the patient wants to accomplish, trying to meet them where they are, instead of forcing a square peg in a round hole and saying, this is your age, this is what you should be doing. It's a conversation and making recommendations and helping the patient reach the goals they want. So instead of really thinking about an optimized medical outcome per se, it's really about that quality of life. Right, and the patient enjoying the journey, and I think that's a big piece of how I practice.
And liking people plays a big part, because there are different situations. You know, you might have a 15-year-old, kid, boy or girl, but depending on their situation, it's going to be a different, thing that you would prognosis or.
I think that's the big piece of it, is that people are individual, and that's a big thing I've come to appreciate. It was the big draw to family medicine for me, is forming those relationships and understanding not only this is how old you are, this is what screenings are right for you, but also what's your lifestyle, where do you live, how far are you from the clinic, do you have a car, or what other challenges are you up against, and then there's some folks that maybe medication is the right choice right out of the gate, whereas there are other individuals that we really try to work on lifestyle modifications, and a lot of that are what barriers is that patient up against. So I do think every single patient that walks through the door is unique.
Isn't that refreshing? I mean, the doctors are actually thinking that way. That's very cool.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And technology is another thing. I mean, technology changing so fast now. How do you keep up with that in the medical world?
Well, it is an evolving or a moving target. I think it stands to really help us improve outcomes, to help us improve the ability to reach patients where they are. I think at the core of what we do, I'd say it's our electronic health record that we have. We have a system that, depending on who you are, doesn't matter which practice you visit or what provider you visit, we have the same documentation system. But then on the flip side of that, it's also available to patients. We have a secure patient portal. I think patients should all have access to their data. I think they should be involved in the conversation. I don't believe in the paternalistic do as I say, not as I do. I think that this is a conversation we have. So having a channel for individuals to view their labs, to communicate securely with myself, to even we offer telemedicine visits for folks that can't make it to visit. So I think technology can be a bit daunting, but I do think as we're moving forward, it's not something that's going to replace any of myself or my colleagues. I think it's more going to allow us to provide more effective care, to close some of those financial and those access gaps that we're challenged with. Okay, so COMC, as you probably know, is all over the place. I mean, Lori, Osage Beach, Camdenton, Eldon, Richland, coming soon to new places too. As you mentioned, behavioral, dental health care, medical health care. I think optometry is coming soon, absolutely. All of that stuff. So folks want to make an appointment with you. How do they go about that? So they'd call the Osage Beach Clinic. Okay. And I think that you were talking about sort of the philosophy of COMC. I think access is a big piece of it. We've been talking about affordability and technology, but being able to call the clinic and get an appointment, not in April for a new patient, or I have an acute issue and folks being told it's 3-4 weeks out, I think is unacceptable. So we do keep clinic slots open every day. I had appointments this morning for urgent care walk-ins. We have appointments every day for new patients as well. So folks wanting to come on board, they're happy to call the Osage Beach Clinic and get in with myself or any of my colleagues. Okay, and the website is centralozarks.org. Dr. Haynie, thank you, sir. We'll have to do more with him. There's more to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us for the COMC Community Spotlight Show.